All right, everybody, welcome in, Eagles fans. This is Eagles Talk on A2D Radio. I am putting the Eagles officially on the clock. We got Bowen on the Birds. We got a poll question. We got some A.J. Brown stuff. And we will give you our hand selections for the Philadelphia Eagles for this weekend's NFL Draft. This is Eagles Talk. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
All right, everybody, welcome in. This is Eagles Talk on A2D Radio. Peter Young, I am Rob Brinkman. Les Bowen will be along. Our man Chucks, he'll be back, I believe, next week. But it is draft week. The Eagles are on the clock. We are broadcasting live from the Real Talk Studios. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, Instagram, wherever you get your podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. Brought to you each and every Monday. Breads, Mount Laurel, New Jersey, home of the best stuffed bread, tomato pie, sandwiches, cutlets, and meatballs. Mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. Tell them Eagles Talk sent you. Get your 10% off. And as always, down that like, hit that subscribe. We had all your draft coverage. We had all your Phillies coverage. We had all your NBA playoffs coverage, NHL playoffs. Anything you could dream of is covered here on A2D Radio for the fan, by the fan. So, big week. Pete, I know it's your one of your favorite weeks of the year, this draft prep, Thursday night,
It's my
Friday.
Graceland.
It is. I would prefer to talk about it more when we have actually something tangible to talk about because all these pundits.
3 days, all right?
It is. We're just going to get right into it. Les Bowen will be on soon for Bowen on the Birds. Our poll question tonight. The Eagles should make a major trade on draft night. A lot of layers to this. You can move up the board. That could be a big move. You can move down the board. That could be a big move. There's A.J. Brown rumors. There's Dallas Goedert rumors. So that's our poll question tonight. Let us know what you think in the comments. We will introduce them as we go along here over this next hour of our Eagles draft coverage. But, Peter, should make a major trade on draft night. Agree? Disagree? What say you?
No. I understand why a lot of people might think they have to, whether it's the draft or whether it's like trading up to get a certain guy or whether it's trading for a veteran. I saw a report that came out by Schefter that they're looking at trading for a veteran rather than trading up in the draft. I don't believe that because every move in this offseason has been about acquiring young, cheap talent. And acquiring a veteran with the money on the deal and everything just doesn't seem like something they do. Now, if you're going out and you're getting a guy like Greg Newsome from the Browns, that makes a lot of sense. You know, Tyreek Woolen, another guy who makes a lot of sense if you're trying to like maximize your value and things cheap and young. But I don't think you have to make a major move. Like, look at what we did last year. Like, you could. Nobody would have got mad at them if they ended up trading up for Quinyon Mitchell because you needed a cornerback very badly, and you got a stud in Quinyon. But just like last year, this year, you kind of have to wait the way the board falls because if you're at 26 and everyone's gone, like there's no purpose in trading up. Like if Walter Nolan's gone, if James Pierce is gone, if Malachi Starks is gone, you know what I mean? If Nick, the South Carolina safety is gone. I can't remember the last name off the top of my head. You know what I mean? Like, if
I know what his last name is, I cannot pronounce it, and
I can't either.
Figure it out if the Eagles pick him.
How do you say Donovan Zerkamima or whatever his name is from Boston College? I butcher his name every time. Like, if all of these guys are gone by the time you get to 26 and 27, there's no major point in trading up. And while
you have to trade up higher than that.
Sure, but what if they're all gone by 24? Like 24, I think is the sweet spot.
15. Why can't you move up to 15?
I'm not saying you don't have to. You shouldn't, but like 15 is rich. I think the prime trade up spot is between 20 to 26. If let's say by 22, all your guys are gone, I'm kind of just letting the draft go the way I need it to, and we'll see what happens, because it's either maybe I can trade up for another guy I like, maybe there's a veteran I could go get if I really want him, or I could trade back, because there's going to be a few teams who want that 5th-year option for a quarterback, whether it's a Jalen Milroe, whether it's a Jackson Dart. Like, it's going to be a very sexy option, especially for a team that is not in a good way. That could be the New Orleans Saints. That could be the San Francisco. That could be the New York Giants. Like, that could be the Cleveland Browns, to where the pull of the allure of having the quarterback under your control for 5 years could be too much to say no to. And the reason they had options like this in 2023, the only reason they didn't bite and they had multiple options to trade out is because they had a guy at 31 that they had a top 10 pick on. They had a vet that they felt comfortable enough to take him at 10 as they did at 31. Like, if you have a guy like that on your board and he's at a point where you feel comfortable trading up, then I have no issue doing that. Walter Nolan is a guy like that for me. Malachi Starks is a guy like that for me. The kid from Boston College, I really love. James Pierce, like guys like that. But like, don't force it. Don't trade up. It's like, oh my God, we traded up to 20. Why? A pass rusher. Do we value him on our board? Not particularly, but we needed the pass rusher. That's not smart football. And while I understand it's the draft, it's Howie Roseman, you want him to make a splash, and that's what he does. His willingness to make big moves is why we love Howie Roseman. It doesn't mean we have to. Like, we've done it very frequently since 2021. So I can understand why people think it will happen, but it doesn't mean we have to happen. Like, you could stay put and things could happen. Like, guys could fall to you between the 20 to 32 range, and that would work for me. You could trade up if you need to, or, maybe things just didn't align as perfectly as they have in the last few years, and you trade out. Maybe you go from like 32 to 36 and you get an extra second round pick, and then you have all this movement that you can do in the second round, and you get some guys on the board who you have very highly touted in the second round. Maybe you get 2 guys in round 2 that you have top 35, top 40 grades on, maybe not top 20, but top 40. And you get 2 guys like that's stellar. So, like, while
would you rather have a top 15 guy?
But it has to be something I feel comfortable with. Like, the problem with this draft
here's the thing, though, PY. They've done all this nerd stuff with the accumulating draft pitch, which all the GMs and all the Facebook GMs out there are obsessed with these days. Cool. They're young, cheap. You get the BGM. You get to draft all these prospects. They have 20 picks over the next 2 years.
I understand that. And if you
don't have room for them all.
I understand that, but if you want to use these picks, you can. But you don't have. Trading up to the top 15 is expensive. And after the top 15, the way they view this draft, or the way a lot of teams view this draft, is 16 to 32 is as close to 60. Like, as far as the talent goes in this
is
draft.
where I trust the Eagles and their scouts to know what they're doing, and knowing that their 16th player is a better fit for their team than, because it's not all close for every team. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't have this many draft picks. And it's sexy, but you don't have room for them all. I would rather have 1 guy in the top 15 than have 2 or 3 guys in the top 60. 4 guys in the top 60. You're the Super Bowl champions. You have all these draft picks. You can't fit them all on your roster over the next 2 years unless you're just making major changes with your veterans and how your cap is distributed, which I'm not a fan of. I wouldn't be a fan of that either, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. You just dog walk the Kansas City Chiefs in New Orleans.
Yep.
Like, you can absolutely go up and get – this is a quality over quantity draft, especially when you're as good and you're as talented as the Philadelphia Eagles are. If you get one game changer this weekend, that greatly enhances your chances of forming a repeat Super Bowl championship and potential dynasty, the first ever dynasty in Philadelphia sports history.
But you could get that even without trading up. Like, there's chances of things happening. Like, just because when it comes to the draft,
what's the plan? What's the plan for all these draft picks?
The plan is to get a good player. That's the plan. You don't know what it's going to be until the board falls. Like, you don't know. Like,
good players with the situation they have now.
We need to trust in Howie and trust the way he has been running these situations. But you also need to understand that it takes two to tango. Well, you want to trade up to the top 15 and top 20, you need a team that's willing to say yes. Like we talked about last week, they wanted to trade up even sooner for Jalen Carter because they were of certain mind that he is not going to last till their pick. And that was a smart thought process in that. But nobody would bite until the Bears got there. Like, you don't always get that. You don't always get a team like the Bears who are willing to play ball with you.
All right, let's bring in Les Bowen for Bowen on the Birds.
The Birds.
Les Bowen, welcome in.
Hey, guys. Well, first of all here, Pete, what is going on with the facial hair these days?
What are you talking about, Les?
I grew a beard in 1979.
That's a man's beard.
I shaved it off in 1993 for about 6 months. Then I grew it back, and I've had it ever since. It used to be a full beard. I made it the goatee kind, but you just can't. You're either a beard guy or you're not a beard guy. You can't go week to week. Oh, I've got a beard. Who are you, Nick Sirianni?
Yes.
That's his boy.
But good discussion tonight. If on the poll question, I hope they do. I always enjoy it when they do stuff like that. I'm not going to presume to tell them they have to do that since they just won the Super Bowl and everything. They can probably do whatever they want. But, I like the idea of moving up in the draft, or what Adam Schefter talked about today, I guess, which is that they can make a trade for a veteran. They do that too, as they did with A.J. Brown, as they've done with a lot of players over the years. So, that'd be kind of cool. I think Rob is right that the 20 picks over 2 years, it sounds wonderful, but there's no way to really use 20 players. That doesn't mean they have to trade up in the first round this year, but it might lead us to believe that something is going to happen along those lines.
Yep.
I'd like to see it. I think it'd be fun. What PY was saying about how teams view this draft is true. That, in fact, I've heard this year people say, after the top 5, it could be you have a second round grade on this guy, and I think he's the 8th best player in the draft or something. But Rob is also right in that the Eagles don't have to feel that way. If the Eagles have a guy that they want who gets to like 20, I don't know if I want to trade up to the top 15. That would probably take an awful lot of resources. But if somebody gets to like 20 and the Eagles don't agree that he's just like 4 other guys, that he's somebody they really think, like they thought about Cooper DeJean last year, go up and get that guy and don't worry about the fact that other teams might have, 3 other guys ranked the same. You know what I'm saying? I mean, who you value, and you probably don't have – when we look at the draft 5 years from now, it's not going to be like that. It's not going to be like, oh, there were a few good guys and then there were 60 guys that were all the same. I guarantee you it won't be like that. There'll be some guys in there, wherever they're picked, that are going to be superstars. And I guess if the Eagles, I trust you to find one of those guys somehow.
All right, so we all know about this year. They have one in each round, and here, I just had it here.
No, that's not true.
Let's be accurate. The 2025. So this year,
no 6 or 7.
They have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, 3 5s. Sorry, that's 4 5s, and then they're done.
Yep.
Yeah, which is good. I think that's a good way to do it.
Now, this is where the war chest comes in.
Yeah, they're going to trade
2026. So this time next year, they're going to have a 1, a 2, a 3 that are all theirs. They have a 3 from the Jets, from assume Hassan Reddick. They have a compensatory pick coming from New England in the 3rd round in 2026 from Milton Williams. They have their own 4th. They have a compensatory pick from the Cardinals in the 4th round from Josh Sweat. They have their own 5th round pick. They have the 5th round pick from the Texans, which was in the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade. They have another 5th round pick coming from Becton went to the Chargers, correct?
Yeah.
And then they have their own 7. That's where you got to pawn some of them off and get someone get a stud that you really like that fits.
But there's a lot of they can trade those picks at any time during the next.
Yeah, exactly. You could go all in next year and trade all those picks.
Right.
I'll guarantee you right now. I'll tell you what they're going to do in the draft.
Holes now.
They're trading. Yes.
We don't want to admit that. We got our green glasses on sometimes, and they just.
It's great that it's April. And those needs don't have to immediately be met right now. We have until February to meet all those needs.
But I think what we'll see this week, if the Eagles go for the first 2 nights without getting a defensive or offensive lineman, I'll be just speechless.
I'll be shocked.
And people talk about, I like Malachi Starks as you do. But if the Eagles have a chance to draft him versus a pass rusher they really like, they'll take the pass rusher.
Probably.
They're not going to take a safety.
It depends on who they like.
Right.
If the argument is who's that guy that's name that was floating around today that was being targeted to the Eagles?
The UCLA guy.
Yeah, the kid from UCLA is a perfect example. Well, I'm sure they like him. Yeah. I'm sure they have a much higher grade on Malachi Starks. So the thought process is take the kid from UCLA over Malachi Starks.
I don't think they would do that, but I'm saying if there's a D lineman they like, if the guy from Boston College is there, at 32 or whatever,
I love him.
They'll take that. They won't take Malachi Starks.
But all I've heard is they're going to take a pass rusher no matter what. And I said, if it fits what the board is dropping,
don't ever do
and
that.
If it fits what their board is telling them, they're not going to draft. And I keep hearing people talk about it. They're not going to draft a pass rusher just to draft him. Right. If Malachi Stark is their 8th best prospect, I don't know if he is, and the kid from UCLA is 28th.
Right, they're not going to do that.
They're not drafting a kid from UCLA over Malachi freaking Starks. Not to mention he's a goddamn Georgia Bulldog.
Yes, but I wouldn't be shocked if their 1st round pick is an offensive lineman, even though it isn't a great offensive line draft. If there's somebody there that they really like,
I'd be shocked just because their top 30 visits don't make me believe that.
Good point.
If there's one thing the Eagles value more than anything, it's their top 30 visits.
Yeah.
If you look at who they've brought in, like they brought in Scourton, they brought in Walter Nolan, they've brought in Donovan Uragazima, they've brought in Malachi Starks, guys like that, Trey Amos as well. These are who I think they're gonna view as a 1st round pick. I was very nervous that they weren't going to bring in Walter Nolan because I love him. Like to me, it's a 3-person race between Walter Nolan, Malachi Starks, and Donovan. How do you pronounce his
I just see very little chance that Nolan gets there or gets within their range. But what do I know?
I would like
we'll see. But I do think though, Lane Johnson, there's got to be a successor, and that's a high profile spot. That's not, you're not going to get a 7th round guy unless there's another Jordan Mailata out there somewhere who's never played football, to be Lane Johnson's successor. You're going to have to draft somebody good to do that. And I think Lane would like a couple years to tutor the guy too, before he leaves. So if that person is available to them somehow on draft night this year, and I don't anticipate it will be, but if they would do that before they do almost anything, I think. But, it has to happen.
Right.
It's not a great offensive line draft.
No, it is not.
But that also doesn't mean that there's going to be no offensive linemen that pan out from this draft class.
Exactly
but this is not exactly a draft where you're like, oh man, I got to go offensive lineman in the first draft. But it's like
it's unlikely that
the top handful of guys. I wouldn't feel comfortable.
That guy that I'm talking about is there at 32. Now, if they trade it up, who knows? But yeah,
like there's one guy that they had a 1st round grade on who they brought in, and it was the guy from Ohio State.
Yes,
is it Josh Connerly Jr.?
I think he's Oregon. I think Simmons is the Ohio State one.
Yeah, there's two offensive linemen from Ohio State. One translates more as a guard, and the other is mostly a tackle. But, yeah.
All right, let's get to some comments here.
Yeah.
Greg Miller, check us out on YouTube.
Let's go.
Bob Brinkman, move up and get a safety. He believes that safety is the number 1 need. If you get into the top 20, you should be able to get the top safety.
The Eagles have never drafted a safety in that kind of range, and I don't think they're going to start this week. But, it could work. I mean, there's some
the highest safety I remember them drafting is Temple kid, Jarrett
Jaquan Jarrett in 2011.
Jaquan Jarrett, and he couldn't.
If only I'd known covering the 2011 draft that the only player that I really had to think about to get to know would be that chubby little center from Cincinnati that they got in the 6th round. I could have just forgotten about all those other guys, and that would have been fine.
Charles Allen, Howie has the best feel in the room when it comes to getting the player they want.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that the Eagles will pick somewhere between 18 and 24, depending on whom they target.
I would like that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
And then he thinks that they're going to make a trade on all 3 days of the draft.
Oh, of course.
After you mentioned all the 5th round picks they have, I thought, Howie's going to have a I'll
tell you exactly what they're going to do.
6th round pick, he'll have.
They're going to trade.
Yeah.
They're going to trade 2 of their 5ths to get a 6th. They're going to trade to get 2 6ths. They'll trade one of those 6ths to get a 7th, and then they'll trade one of those 7ths to get another 7th that turns into a conditional 7th next year in next year's draft. Like,
he just loves doing stuff like that.
He does. Look, he's very obsessive compulsive ADHD in a way, which I love because that's me. And you're just like, this is fun. Let's do it some more.
It's also fun to, use the games you've played over the past couple seasons and pounce.
Yeah.
Stud.
And there was a time,
that's what he does.
Since you bring it up, Rob, there was a time early in Howie's tenure when they were too cute with all the 6th and 7th round picks. They thought that was like the key to the draft, and it isn't. They drafted a lot of guys that they tried to make starters out of who just weren't very good players. Ed Reynolds and that linebacker from Maryland, Foku. It was a waste of time.
Right. And when you get a guy like Jordan Mailata, I don't even think Jordan Mailata got picked.
Yes, he did.
It was seventh round, yeah.
It was a 7th-round pick.
That was
every
a special
one of them,
situation. Yeah.
Every one of them that works out and becomes an all-pro,
Right.
what is there, 50 that just
Right.
turn out? So I agree with you. Pete Evans is in. Pete.
Hi, Pete.
Bob Ray, CJ, a good player, but we need a guy like.
No, we don't.
Replace.
Well, they need.
If I'm going out and I'm getting a safety, I don't want a CJ GJ clone because I have one here. His name is Sidney Brown. I want a ball hawk. I want someone who I trust in coverage.
Yeah. Okay. I don't
understand what Sidney Brown and I hope Sidney Brown is the next Brian Dawkins and is fantastic, but all this blind trust in Sidney Brown.
It's not even just blind trust in Sidney Brown. I don't want another CJ GJ because while he got the picks or whatever, he was always standing right next to the ball, and they're like, "Oh my God, look at that amazing interception by CJ GJ." What are you talking about? He was standing right next to the guy.
That was more true his first time with the Eagles than it was this past.
Come on, Les. He stole 4 interceptions
away from Quinyon. Yeah, that's
really what are we doing here? Quinyon's right there in the end zone to catch it. This dude comes in like a hawk trying to steal an egg or something.
Are you trying to tell
shade on CJ?
It was a good problem
to have. Player for us.
When you have 2 different guys who
put
the
interception stuff aside. You would rather have Sidney Brown back there than CJ.
I'm not saying I rather have them. They are the same player in the sense that they are hard hitting, no nonsense football players who want to take your head off. That's who they are. And while that
doesn't mean you're going to be. I can trust you as a starter on the Super Bowl champion team.
That's cool. They feel they can. They trust this team enough to go get rid of him and go get someone else.
Well, I'm significantly on record, vehemently on record, that the C.J. Gardner-Johnson trade was a major mistake.
No.
Hopefully they can fix it.
With his coverage grades, I 100% don't think they believe that.
I don't know. I didn't like it, but we'll see.
Ryan Swoop's in the house.
Oh, boy.
Less any possibility of trading Jordan.
No, what?
I don't think
but as a football player, not so much. So inconsistent. He is only a run stopper. He's a very deep drafted defensive tackle.
Congratulations. He's very, very, very good at doing something that's very important to the football team.
It's first of all, Ryan, that's a good question. I like this question. It is a great draft at defensive tackle, but you're already down,
right.
Milton Williams, and you just can't. You've got to you've got to make this. You got to find some depth there. You can't just get rid of another starting defensive tackle and draft a bunch of guys. That's not a good philosophy. Davis came on toward the end of the year, and I'm real curious about that, and I want to see how it works out this season.
Yep.
I have seen before, one thing that bothered me about a lot of the guys that really came on in the playoffs, it was wonderful to see, but we've seen that's kind of what happens with teams that win Super Bowls is guys do stuff, and you're like, wow, I didn't know he could do that. Remember Corey Clement?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the guy is, going to be a great player. Now, Jordan Davis was drafted to be a really good player, and they've got to decide, this will be his 4th season. They got to decide if they're going to pick up that 5th-year option. And, that's going to be a real challenge for them. I would do it probably if it were me, but I don't think they will trade him. I don't think he's anybody that another team is going to give you something great for. And then you have to replace him with a starting quality defensive lineman. I just don't see it happening. Too much movement on that defensive line to destabilize it further. But good thinking there, Ryan. That's that's a substantive question.
Yes. You're right, Les, with what they lost. He's going to be here, and it's going to be another big year for Jordan Davis. Maybe he can make a step. But, I don't see them up the Brinks truck for Jordan Davis based on what I've seen so far.
No,
Right.
So it's not
I
that
think
outlandish.
No, the
it's not
question
that
now is just
outlandish
picking
of
up
an
the
idea.
fifth-year option. It's
I don't
not
think they
anywhere
need-
near Brinks truck,
I think even if they don't pick it up, I think they still extend him just to.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends on what he thinks he's worth, maybe. But
I don't know. I don't think he. I think he's pretty self-aware. Like, you have to know, like, this is what we are. Like, you know, if my own team is not willing to go this far, what is another team willing to do? Is another team willing to give me a 3-year extension?
Pete, I'd like to introduce you to some agents sometime.
Ryan Swoop, I wish Howie was the GM for all the Philly teams.
Be nice.
Not a high bar.
Better bullpen.
Not a high bar here on
Yeah.
for the Philadelphia GM collection
Yeah.
outside of Howie Roseman here on April 21st.
The jury is very
9:39
much out
PM.
on Danny Briere and Keith Jones.
Hey, Danny Briere is like the second best GM in sports in Philadelphia right now.
Probably
That's
so.
sad.
Yes.
I can't even.
Yeah.
I can't even begin to explain how out I am on the Flyers.
I don't hate Dombrowski, but I do not have a lot of enthusiasm for what he's done. You know, after
he
what
didn't
happened
do
to them
anything
in the postseason,
in the offseason.
To come back with this bullpen and this lineup, and the bullpen actually got worse, getting rid of Hoffman. You know, wow. Anyway, yeah, that would be nice if Howie would probably do that too. He'd like that. He would never sleep, but yeah.
Who needs sleep?
News as we move towards the draft here. I guess we got some clarity on why they are looking to move a Dallas Goedert and move the CJ Gardner-Johnson. Starting center Cam Jernigan gets a 4-year, $68 million extension this morning. Comments, concerns, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with it.
Oh, I think it does. I think it absolutely does. I mean, they'll do more of these, and I think that's what they're thinking. Whether that's good thinking or not, I don't know. And there's this concern over cash layout that I spoke about last week that is new to me, that I've never really known to be a consideration before. But you know, they're up at the top of the league in the cash they spend every year, and this will further that, giving Cam Jurgens, you know, all this money. But it's a good deal. I mean, Cam Jurgens he's had some injuries, but he's played really, really well. And he played with a bad back injury that needed surgery, and you know, made it through the playoffs. I think he's somebody you lock up. You definitely do that. I don't think you had a lot of choice there other than to pay him. And you got 4 of your 5 offensive linemen. The 4 established offensive linemen are all locked up now for years. And that's the soul of this team. That's the motor of this team.
You are correct in that.
Hey, AJ Brown got
very
his
weird.
comeback
It's
today.
been very weird if you're tracking like the business side of the Philadelphia Eagles this offseason. He's selling stake in the franchise. I don't know if you guys caught this, but I caught it. There was rumors he was going to buy the Celtics. Jeffrey Lurie, I'm saying that has been dispelled, and now they're doing all this cost cutting stuff. And then I get the alert this morning when I'm playing golf that they're shelling out money for Cam Jurgens,
which they were expected to do. I think that was something they had planned to do. But the thing about the cash being spent, I mentioned that he's at the top of the league every year in spending actual cash, not just the cap, but the actual cash they spend. The problem there for Lurie is this. He did not get into this business as a billionaire. In fact, he had to borrow a lot of the money that he used to buy the team for $180 million or something 30 years ago.
Yep.
And this is something Ed Snyder told me many years ago that is certainly true. When they set your franchise value at a certain number, that doesn't mean that, like Scrooge McDuck, you have a giant vault full of that amount of money that you can just go swimming in. It means if you sell this asset, then you have that much money. You don't have anything.
It's not
you have
liquid.
A better line of credit than you would have had before. It's like your house. Your house might be worth 4 times what you paid for it, but until you sell it, you don't have any money from that. So
it's like the stock market.
So Lurie's got to pay all this money out, and I'm not sure, other than the team, what his sources of income really are. And he's in very good shape, obviously. I'm sure he's invested wisely. I'm sure he is, borrowed against the value and bought shopping centers or whatever the hell it is guys like that do. But still, I think, it's not like he's Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or something. It's not like he has billions of dollars sitting at his bedside, waiting to shell out to Cam Jurgens.
Really the other, we still have the Dallas Goedert stuff hanging over their head.
Yeah.
I am still.
That's done.
Again,
he's out here. He's out of there.
I still hope. The longer this goes on, the more I hope that maybe his agent looks around at what's going to happen if he leaves here. What kind of deal is going to be available to him, and that maybe they can work something out, unless the Eagles are going to be just total hardball and, we don't need to pay money at that position anymore.
I don't even think they're being hardball. I think they probably went to them and they're like, all right, cool. We want to keep you. We need to reduce the cap number. Can you play ball with us? We did give you that nice fat extension, even though you were hurt all the time. Yeah. And they probably said no. I'm not even the biggest Dallas Goedert fan, and I want to keep him, but my gut says he's a Colt by Friday night.
My point is, though, I'm sure that I think you're probably right that that's what happened. But after saying no, it's incumbent upon you as the agent to go around and find out what other teams think of your guy and what's going to happen now that you've set in motion his departure, and if he's going to go somewhere and not make any more money than the Eagles were going to give him, then you're an idiot.
Nope.
So you need to, what I hope is happening is that either there are teams that are willing to pay Dallas Goedert much more money than the Eagles apparently are willing to, or he'll end up back here somehow.
I think he's going to be here because now the Ravens they're floating Mark Andrews out there, and that's not good for the Eagles, and that's not good for Dallas Goedert.
Good point.
So,
good point.
I think he's going to be here, and I would much rather overpay Dallas Goedert for one season and pray he stays healthy than get a C.J. Gardner-Johnson return for Dallas Goedert. Because I don't think Mason Taylor or Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren are in the cards for this football team.
No.
On night one or night two.
Well, Mason Taylor might be, but
Mason Taylor 100%.
I don't know that he's as good as Dallas Goedert.
I don't think that. I just look at this defense and what they lost, and I think, and obviously if Dallas Goedert is not here, now you have another need at tight end.
Yeah. That's right.
Take a Mason Taylor in the second or first round when
probably second.
But every week, Jalen Hurts doesn't really like throwing.
Yeah, that's a big factor in this. The two things that really, as much as the money, the thing Pete mentioned, the injuries, he's missed a quarter of the season basically. Yep. Over the last several years, ever since he signed that deal in 2021,
I'll counter that. Is it that Jalen Hurts doesn't like to throw to him, or that he just doesn't? He's not on the field long enough to get a rhythm going with Dallas and
that
get
could
a stretch.
Very well be part of it.
Get a stretch going with one another.
But there were a few games there, Pete, where I was noticing Calcaterra when Goedert was hurt. That Hurts was throwing to Calcaterra.
Yeah. Because there's a trust there. He knows him very well.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same thing come next season.
There's only one football on the field.
I know this.
Yeah.
But rules at the owners. There's only one football. You got Saquon. You got AJ. You got Devontae.
And they always talk about
running.
Whenever Goedert goes 3 weeks and with 2 receptions, they always talk about that one ball thing, and then they say, some week it'll be Dallas's turn, but it
Yeah.
never seems to really be Dallas's turn.
That's because when it's Dallas's turn, he's on IR.
Yeah.
And you can say what you
Yeah,
want about
I can argue both sides of this argument. I like Dallas Goedert. I thought he had a tremendous playoff. I thought, you really, if you look at how you won the Super Bowl and you think you would have done it without Dallas Goedert, you might want to think again. But I also see the rest of it too.
Ryan Swift, don't get a one-dimensional tight end. Get a tight end who can block as good as Goddard, does everything. Get a replacement who does the same.
Yeah, well, that's going to have to be a pretty high pick. If you can get him Tyler Warren, I'm all for it. But
that'd be nice.
If they trade Dallas Goedert somehow, and Tyler Warren is on ESPN with one of them Laramie Tunsil long masks on, and they make a move into the top 20 to grab Tyler Warren,
yeah,
cool. We're good on that. Tyler Warren is a football player.
Yeah, he really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are a lot of them in the NFL draft.
Pretty.
Yeah. He's a heck of a player. I mean, he's a very, very, very good player. Would he be, would he be everything he can be in this offense? I don't know. But certainly that would take care of your Dallas Goedert problem.
Yep.
Seems like every year around this time, fellas, the A.J. Brown.
No.
Shifting addresses comes up.
Because it's so stupid.
Nonsense. I think it's sports talk radio.
Well, no, here's the best part.
Somebody that I really like. I really like and respect Ike Reese. I loved him as a player, as a guy to talk to. I like him as
That's because he was kissing ass on air, Les.
But then I saw this tweet and I couldn't stop myself from saying, this is ridiculous. Why are you, I accused them of making it up, which is a mistake because they didn't make it up.
They did. They technically did, Les.
They gave it oxygen, which is just as bad to me. The cap implications of trading A.J. Brown are ridiculous. There's no way they could get through this season having traded A.J. Brown. So it can't happen, and it won't happen. And, I think probably somebody from the Patriots went and stole A.J.'s girlfriend's car this morning. But
the old Honda Accord.
My favorite part about that, Les, is they're like, there's substance to the report. And I said, no, here's how it worked.
Right.
Giglio said something ridiculous a week before, and then WIP and the station, I think it's WEII, whatever the hell it is, is owned by the exact same parent company that owns WIP. So they floated it around down there, and then they floated it back up here. So it's a continuous circle of mouth bombing.
The Boston guy said he heard this from a good source.
Who's the source? Joe Giglio?
There's nobody in an NFL front office who doesn't understand the salary cap and what is and is not possible. So there's nobody in the front office of either team who is floating this as a serious proposition because it can't happen. So you don't have a real source. You might have like somebody's dry cleaner or something like that, but somebody's
the barber's a good one.
Brother-in-law, but no,
the barber rumor.
Yeah. But
we all agree that it's not feasible. It's not going to happen. I want my superstar offense with my superstar wide receiver. With all due respect to Devontae Smith, he's not a number one receiver. A.J. Brown is a complete. He's not.
I think
Devontae Smith is not even in the same ballpark as
A.J. But that means nothing. That means nothing. He's a number one wide receiver. He's not on this team.
Yeah,
he could be a number one wide receiver on like 30 of 32 NFL games.
I love Devontae Smith, but if he's your number one receiver, I don't think you're winning a championship. I think it's a prerequisite in today's NFL that you need an absolute alpha like a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase.
I must
Brown,
have missed when the Tennessee Titans were winning championships with A.J. Brown.
You obviously need other parts, but I don't think you can win a championship in today's NFL without a wide receiver on the outside making plays like an A.J.
You don't.
Brown.
You
so
need
let's
two.
play a game.
You need two.
At least one, though.
Yes, and Devontae's the two.
2, but if he was the 1, that's
So-
a significantly worse wide receiver core with him as your 1 and filling in with other role players. I don't even know how you can argue that, PY.
If you
I don't even
here's
know
the
how you
thing,
can
if
argue
you get
that.
rid of AJ, they're a worse wide receiver core. If you get rid of Devontae, they're a worse wide receiver core
Yeah.
because both of them are extremely good.
Yep, they are. They're both good. I think they're both capable of being number 1 receivers. I understand Rob's point, but I don't think the difference is that stark between them. I think they're 2 really great wide receivers.
Let's go to the bar. Let's go to the barbershop, wherever you debate group chats. I guess it is these days where you debate sports with your friends. So obviously, we've already established that the finances are not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
Negative $6 billion.
So, would you trade
No.
AJ Brown
No.
for Abdul Carter?
No.
No, I wouldn't.
So
would you trade AJ Brown for Travis Hunter?
No.
Not really. Hold on a second. With the
it's just for fun, PY. You don't have to get so fucking
with the first one
about it.
With the first one, the rumor was the Patriots. So from the Patriots' point of view, what would this accomplish? You're one of the worst teams in the league. How many years has AJ Brown already been in the NFL? I mean,
7 less.
So you're taking that at the top of the market money, and you're giving up a chance to draft a guy who can be a superstar defensive end for 10 or 12 years for a bad team that's trying to build something. I don't see how that gets you anywhere. And I actually think that the report had the Eagles also giving the Patriots other draft picks, because then it might somehow make sense for the Patriots to do this.
Well, I don't really. I understand your
point,
point, Les, but I don't really care how it affects.
Oh, I know, but that's another
I'm
reason
asking
why it can't happen.
What your perspective would be if you could get a Travis Hunter or an Abdul Carter in Philadelphia on a rookie deal.
For AJ Brown, no, I would not do that.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Got a few minutes left here. All right, let's get into some brass tacks here. I'm very gung ho about them trading up and getting one absolute stud in this draft. Well, let's go to PY. What is your ideal scenario? We'll go realistic options because you study the draft.
I do.
For picks, let's see. I just had it here. Obviously, 32. 64 and 96, I think they have off memory. If I'm off, I apologize a little bit, but I think that's the general gist.
So, my dream scenario, if this happens, Jesus is on your side. Like you are being guided by the Lord. And it's Walter Nolan at 26, Trey Amos at 64, and what was it, 96, right?
Third round, I think it's 96.
Yeah, and Harold Fanning at 96. That is the A+ home run scenario in my opinion.
Who was your first guy there? Nolan?
Yeah, Walter Nolan.
And then who was next after that?
Trey Amos.
That's pretty solid.
Do you think Trey Amos is going to be there in the second round?
I think he's going to be in there in the second round. Is he going to be there until 64? I highly doubt it, but this is if the stars align, that would be perfect. There's a lot of good players you could get. Who is that guy you were talking about last week on the show? The Giant.
Oh, Landon Jackson.
Yeah, Landon Jackson. That's an interesting concept. TJ Sanders is an interesting concept.
The defensive tackle from South Carolina.
Yep. I mean, you could go out, you can get Mason Taylor like that. That I would be happy with that. Tate Rutledge is available,
Well, there's one of my guys right there, Tate Rutledge.
Yeah. And he checks another box, Georgia.
Here. I love this kid out of Texas. Jahad Barron, excuse me.
Oh, are you talking about the corner?
You're going to have to move up to get him. His production, I care about way more than the underwear Olympics that is the NFL Combine. Listen to this resume in 2004 for Jihad Barron.
I mean, 24.
First team Associated Press All-American. First team All-SEC. Won the Jim Thorpe Award for the nation's top defensive back. He was a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Award for the nation's top defender. He was the Peach Bowl MVP in the college football playoff final. This is a defensive back winning an MVP award in a big time college football game. Tied for fourth in the FBS with 5 interceptions. Led Texas with 11 pass breakups. Started all 16 games, 67 tackles, 2.5 for a loss, with 1 sack. And if you throw on his highlight video on YouTube, this guy looks the part. In the box, out of the box, tackling, in coverage, safety, corner, slot corner. He absolutely does it all. An honorable mention for the pass rush would be Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. And by the way, I understand that probably neither of these guys are going to be in Philadelphia because none of them came in for a top 30 visit. But we're having fun, and GM Rob likes those 2 guys in the first round. Now, I can't imagine a scenario where they draft a wide receiver in the first 2 days of the draft, but I am going to throw a shout out to my man, Jaden Higgins, out of Iowa State. He is 6'4", 215 pounds. He was a third-team All-American at Iowa State. He skipped his bowl game. He skipped his bowl game because he didn't want to get hurt. I think he's a very, very, very good wide receiver. I think whoever gets him is going to be – he's a better version of Johnny Wilson, in my opinion, which would help the team. And
you don't have to go very far to be a better version.
Yeah.
But
he's
sorry,
the,
Johnny,
he's
if you're
big,
watching this, I really
big wide
apologize.
receiver body type is the point.
Keep getting those likes on
then,
Hinge, Johnny.
Yeah.
And PY stole my thunder with Tate Rutledge. He's a Georgia Bulldog, so you know how he knows about him. Kenyon Green and Tyler Steen do not excite me.
No.
Even a little bit at the right guard position.
You can get
he's athletic.
But, yeah.
He's got an attitude. I like his attitude. He knocks the snot out of people. So I like him. So there's a few names to keep an eye on, whether it's for the Eagles or big picture NFL stuff. Les, your thoughts?
Well, I don't have anything that detailed, certainly. Kudos to both of you guys. But here's what I want to see. I want to see them get the edge rusher they want the first day. And I think, they might have to trade up to do that. Don't just take whichever one ends up at 32, and I don't think they would. But if they want Ezeraku or whatever his name is, and you have to go up to 23 to get him, then do that. Get whichever edge rusher it is that you really like of that group. Obviously, you're not going to get Abdul Carter, but Scourton. If you like Scourton and you don't think he's going to be there at 32, move up. Just come out of that first round with an edge rush would be my ideal scenario. And then day 2, I wouldn't mind seeing the Bowling Green tight end, Fannin, and I'd like to see Jack Sawyer. And
you've mentioned him before.
Yeah, I have. I just like that guy, but I don't have a lot of guys that I'm pounding the table for in this draft. It'd be nice if they got a safety, but I don't. If they take a safety in the first round, even if it's Malachi Starks, I'll be a little bit surprised because they just don't do that. But, they've done things this year that they've never done before, like give Zach Bond a contract. So who knows?
All right. Closing thoughts, PY?
Go get me a stud.
You can do that a lot easier if you trade up. Les?
Yeah, whatever, all the scenarios we've mentioned tonight and last week, something will happen with the Eagles Thursday or Friday that we have no idea, that we haven't even touched upon.
You're probably right about that.
Yeah.
If you think you know with Howie, you don't know.
Right.
But it's fun and cute with the draft time. I have the NFL channel on the big screen here as we're doing the show. Like, obviously they know more than us because they've worked in front offices and some of them have played in the NFL and they're plugged in media members like you are and used to be with the team. Nobody knows.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Nobody knows. So,
real quickly, in 2003, the Eagles totally whiffed on the draft. None of the guys they drafted was a really good player, but they signed a bunch of undrafted free agents, several of whom became starters. And I actually said to Tom Heckert a couple years later, if you'd have just drafted the guys that you signed after the draft, you would have had a very good draft. He said, yeah, it turned out. Quentin Michael, Rod Hood, Jamal Jackson, they signed all these guys that were great players after the draft. No, they don't know. I mean, they hope they do, but they don't.
Yep, it's not an exact science.
Up here. Oh, the old Jerome McDougal draft.
Yes, that was the Jerome McDougal draft. Yes.
God, the only guy from the U in that era that was bad was picked by the Eagles.
And first time I saw him, I thought, weird looking guy, not tall, not well built. Very strange pick, but
the only guy from Miami that he could pick who was worse was The Rock.
Yeah.
Jerome McDougal, LJ Smith.
Yeah.
LJ was solid.
But
LJ could play, but he didn't really want to play that much.
No dog.
Yeah.
Billy McMullen.
Yeah, they traded Billy for Hank Baskett.
Another gem. Jamal Green, who I don't remember ever doing anything.
He was from Camden, and everybody wanted him to do something. It was another Miami guy, but no, didn't do anything.
Jeremy Bridges, he was a guard apparently.
Yeah.
And Norman Lejeune in the 7th round.
Yeah, Norman Lejeune was from Clemson, and so the idea was that he was going to be like the Brian Dawkins understudy. And
is that like everything? Like, just if there's a safety from Clemson and the Eagles get him, like it's the next Brian Dawkins. Is that
exactly? Yes.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, there's only one of that. There's only one of those guys. Right. They don't make them like him anymore.
Correct. Yes.
All right, well, that'll do it for this edition of Eagles Talk. Enjoy the draft. We will have a lot to talk about next week. Like Les said, probably a bunch of stuff that no one foresaw happening to talk about next week. So until then, for Peter Young, Les Bowen, I'm Rob Brinkman. Peace out, everybody.
Yes.